I've been talking with a lot of friends, and we always talk about like different types of foods. So I thought it'd be kind of fun today to do kind of a tier list of different foods that I've done, I've eaten, I've tried in Vietnam that I think you guys would like. So we're gonna go over traditional Vietnamese food. I'm gonna go over some minority food, so like Hmong food, Toy food, and stuff of that nature. And then finally, I want to go over some Western style food. And I'm going to give you a breakdown of, let me bring you guys in here real quick. So kind of look at our list here. So we have the must-have. This is something you just have to try at least once. You have the rare treat. This is something where something's good, but you probably don't want to eat it a lot. Too much of a good thing is not good for you, right? And then you have a daily lunch. This is something that if you're in Vietnam, you probably just eat this all the time. So it'll be good for a while, then it'll kind of just become normal to you. For the experienced one, this is gonna be stuff that like is borderline weird or disgusting, but it's worth a shot, right? And then finally take a photo. This is food that you just take a picture of it and walk away. Like you don't want to deal with this. Now a disclaimer, because there were some foods that were always being talked about when I was with friends. I'm not going to talk about sensitive, I guess. Like, I'm not going to talk about like domestic animals that are eaten in Vietnam. I'm not going to talk about controversial things that are eaten in Vietnam. So those foods I'm leaving out. This is if you came to Vietnam, you're like, I want to try these weird or different foods. I'm going to screw up a lot of these names, so forgive me. Like, I understand Southern Vietnamese, but my Northern is starting to kick in, so now everything's screwed up in my head. But the first one we're going to be looking at here, and I got side images so I can show you a bigger image of it, is Bánh Con. This is kind of like a wrap. And typically what they put into this stuff is some kind of a pork. They'll put like a vegetable, like it's typically like mushrooms and like Brussels sprouts. And then you'll get stuff on the side and you get the normal like chili dipping sauce. It's got a weird texture to it. It's kind of slimy, I guess. I ended up eating this a couple times. It was okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put that into the daily lunch category. All right, so number 2 is, this is gonna be called Hue Tu. And I'm screwing these names up. So this one is more of a thinner noodle. It's like a glass noodle. You'll typically get it with like a pork or a beef and then some kind of like a seafood. And then you'll get like quail eggs or something in there. This one, honestly, I would just say it'd be like a daily lunch. There's nothing too special about it. It tastes like what you would expect. Now this next one is called Mi Quang. Now this is something, I've only really seen this in like Hanoi. And I think the reason for it is it's very, I don't want to say spicy, but it's very herby. It's a really good dish. It's got like the kind of like the flat noodle. You'll get some kind of like a seafood. You'll have eggs in there. It's got very little broth. And typically what I do is I'll put like a chili flakes in there and I'll mix it up and I'll add the vegetables in there. This is something, if you visit the north, you have to try it. When it comes to like you living here, this is going to just be something that you eat every day. The big difference in there is it's mostly just the quail eggs, and it's more about the noodle than it is the broth. Where like something like Binh Boi Hue or pho is mostly broth. Like the noodles are kind of like a secondary to the broth. It's very powerful on the noodle part itself. Since we're on this stuff, let's get to the pho. I typically, for myself, and I'll put up a rare treat. Let me explain why. One, it's usually expensive because it's more of a tourist food now. Vietnamese typically don't eat pho like they used to. And despite what you think, remember, we just went through 2 different types of noodle-based dishes that you can get out here. Vietnamese typically are just eating noodles. Like, it is very common to come out to Vietnam and meet Vietnamese, and all they're eating is like hao hao, which is like a packet, like ramen noodles in a packet that we'd see in the States. And they're just putting hao hao into a bowl and throwing a little bit of beef in there, throwing some vegetable, and they sell it at a restaurant, charging 30-40K, which is like $1.50. Pho itself can run between 50 to 70,000, depending. Sometimes up to 100,000, depending where you go. So this is more of a rare treat that you won't get a lot, especially when you get out here and you start realizing that it all kind of tastes the same. Now, there's a caveat to this. South Vietnam and North Vietnam. South Vietnam is typically sweet food. It's very sugary based. So pho in the South is what you're going to be familiar with if you've eaten pho in like America, if you've eaten in Australia, New Zealand, Canada. That's Southern Vietnamese pho. 99% of food that you eat in the West, that's Vietnamese food, is typically from South Vietnam. It's sweet, right? It's got that like that taste. Northern pho, though, I find personally is my favorite. It's not sweet. It's very herby based, so it has that natural taste to it. And there's a lot of cool chilies that are involved, so you make it really spicy. So when it comes to pho, you're going to eat it, but it's going to be something that over time, I would say after like 2 or 3 months, you're gonna kind of like move on, especially if you become a teacher. Because a lot of the staff that you go out and eat with, they're not gonna eat pho. Pho is definitely a rare treat at this point because it's become such a tourist food that, and because of that, it's becoming too expensive for Vietnamese to actually pay for it daily. So that being said, let's get into something a little different that is kind of a daily lunch, and that is banh. This is full of vegetables. I had these mint leaves that you see in here, and then it had beef in there, and then a bunch of Brussels sprouts, like a lot of Brussels sprouts. Typically with this is you'll dip it into some kind of like a light chili sauce, something like that. But ideally what it is, it's just a pancake. It's an egg pancake. A lot of these that you get, they typically come with like shrimp, pork, bean sprouts. You get with herbs, beef. I've seen a few with chicken. The chicken's really bad. I don't know, something about chicken and eggs doesn't mix with me. You will eat this a lot. I never ate it until I got to Vung Tao. I would say a rare treat because I couldn't imagine eating this all the time. Like it has a cool, unique flavor texture to it, but it definitely would get boring pretty quick. These are ultra cheap though. Like you end up getting like 3 to 5 of them for like 50 cents. And I want to make an adjustment here if I can. I'm going to move the pho up to must have because it's just that it's a Vietnam classic, right? You kind of have to. And with that being said, let's talk about another must have, banh mi. Whoa, this picture was huge. Let me bring that down for you guys. So banh mi, this is just a normal stock picture. I didn't have any personal pictures of any of them. A banh mi is pretty much, this is where we're going to get out of the Vietnamese food. And what it is they cut it in half and they just load it up with a bunch of vegetables, vegetables, some types of meats, and really just vegetables, and then some sauces. And sometimes they'll put like some kind of sauce or like paste on there. The problem with these, and I did a video some time back about processed foods, like how Vietnam food's becoming processed. And a few people ask me what foods are processed in Vietnam. This is one of them. If you're on a low carb diet, this is a nightmare for you. And the reason for it, one, the bread. The bread is heavy in gluten. This bread is not made like you would think it is. It is actually pretty ghetto made. It's not perfectively clean. And it uses a lot of extra stuff to make the bread quicker because they mass produce this stuff pretty quick. All the meat inside is typically processed, like sausages, processed beefs, it's processed porks and stuff like that. So you're not getting like a really healthy food. I wouldn't put it at like healthy like Subway, but I put it like if McDonald's made like a BLT. This would be the equivalent of health. So with this being said though, I'm going to put it as like a daily lunch because this is something that you will probably eat all the time, especially if you're in South Vietnam. This is everywhere, almost every other vendor. If it's not Bap Sao Day, it's Banh Mi Day. This is a funny one. And I never knew about this until I was a teacher. You guys might be seeing this now, knowing what it is. What this is it's a, as we say in Vietnam, it's a beef steak. It's pretty much like processed beef. They pretty much, they put it on the skillet. Everything's raw, right? So they put this raw meat on there. They put a couple processed hot dogs. They put like an egg on there, and then they'll put some like herbs and spices. And this pan, where I'm pointing at the screen that you guys can see, but this like iron cast thing is heated, extremely hot. So they have to bring to you like gloves and stuff. You don't want to touch that part of it. But what it does is it sizzles your food cooked. I'm going to say because it's horribly unhealthy in every aspect. There's a couple restaurants in Saigon that actually make a restaurant around this idea, but it's not really that common. This is more, I think it's more of a vendor food. I would say do it for the experience because it doesn't taste special. It's the experience of like how cool it is. Like they bring you all this raw food, throw it on there. It's almost like a hot pot. It's a cool thing to do, but yeah, it's ultra unhealthy. The taste of it is what you expect. I would definitely say that's a once in a while thing. So let's go to another one. What do we got here? This is actually cool. So this is a minority-based food. I think a lot of you guys will never, ever see this food. This is a Hmong food that I had when I was out in Lai Châu. They wrap it in like a banana paper, right? That's banana. Yeah, banana paper. How do you call it? It's a corn, not oatmeal, but cornmeal. It's cornmeal that's pretty much bagged into it. And they typically inside of it, it'll be like vegetables and meat put in there. And then they put it into this thing and they steam it. Like they put it on this steamer thing. I've only had this in Hmong villages. If you do see this, it is definitely a must-have because of the rarity of it. And it does have a good taste. It's a weird texture. if you do get up to Lai Châu, that area, and again, if you're in the members area, this is actually one of the cities I talk about in there. If you do get up there, this is a definite must-have food, like for sure. It's unique in taste, but the fact that you won't find it anywhere else. So let's get into the next one here. This guy, we have Tanko. So this is something you'll find out in Stop. This is look at this picture, guys. Like, can you tell what it is? Like, let me give you a second. You see the bamboo shoots in there. So that should give you a little indication of where this is from. This is definitely a northern food. But if you look at it, what do you think? Unhappy about this one. So this is actually horse. A lot of this stuff here is horse organs. It's not so much horse meat, but it's the organs. And they brew it up. This isn't weird. I'm going to say take a photo of it. The reason I had it was very biased. We ordered the food, didn't know what it was, and this Hmong girl came over to us. She had been like 12 or 13, younger girl, and she spoke English. And she's like, "Oh, you like this food?" You know, because we picked it just because we just picked a bunch of, because we were looking for Hmong food. That was the whole objective, and this was one of them, so we picked it. It was like one of like 7 options they had, and we picked it. This girl came over, she started telling us about the foods, and she got to this one. We were already eating it, and she's like, "Yeah, it's horse. Like horse organs and guts and stuff like that." So if you do see this, I would say take a picture of it. Here's your photo. But I wouldn't recommend it. Like, it didn't taste good. I guess if you ate like any other organs from another animal, you would get the same kind of like flavor out of it. So I would definitely say take a photo and just kind of walk away. It's not worth it. So with that disgusting thing being put out there, let me show you actually something I think you guys are fully aware of. And these are, I guess in America we call these like spring rolls or fresh rolls. Now you can get these made a few different ways. The image I have here is a pork and shrimp one with a peanut sauce in here, and it'll have like really thin noodles, and then they wrap it in rice paper, like they'll do paper, stuff like this. It's super good. My advice on this is put some chili into the peanut sauce, mix it up. If you get flakes, that's even better. And it's a really good thing. This is an awesome food. It's really good. It's super cheap. Most street vendors sell this stuff. This is definitely a daily lunch. Like, you're gonna eat this all the time, especially if you're in the South or Central Vietnam. If you're in Hanoi or Northern Vietnam, it's not as common as they use fried egg rolls. But let's talk about something that you really only see this in North Vietnam, and this is bún chả. Now, bún chả is a weird one because it goes outside the norms of Hanoi food. Northern food, like I said at the beginning, is more herb-based, and the South is more sweet. This is one of the very few dishes in North Vietnam that's naturally a sweet food, and it has to do with the broth. I will tell you, I've had this a few times in South Vietnam where things are already sweet, and this typically isn't sweet in the South. I don't know why. Everything in South Vietnam is like sugar-based, but when it comes to something that already is sugar-based, instead of just leaving it alone, they take the sugar out, which is kind of weird to me. Bún chả in the South does not taste like Hanoi at all. Typically what it is, you'll get some kind of like a beef or pork patty, you decide. You'll get eggs in there, you'll get some noodles, and you'll get a bunch of vegetables. You see this purple one? That's a mint. Like a mint leaf. Super good. And it's just a bunch of other stuff. You can do this 2 different ways. One of them is you just mix all this stuff into a bowl, and you just kind of make your own soup. Kind of like Build-A-Bear. The second way you do it is they'll give you rice paper. You'd wrap it all in and kind of make your own like version of like an egg roll, I guess you could do. I rarely see that in restaurants. It's typically you make your own soup kind of a thing. This is definitely a must. You are in Hanoi. This is a must. If you're in Saigon or something like that, I would almost say do it for the experience, but it's going to be a false experience. But it is definitely a food that you have to try. So this is another noodle soup here. This one is almost brothless. This is almost like, what is a good word? It's like a salad almost. So you'll get beef or you'll get pork. This is a pork one. So you have pork skin, you have pork itself, you have lettuce, Brussels sprouts. It's really a salad. And what it was just kind of like a sweet, they called it a sweet Thai salad. And it's a super good thing. If you do catch this, I recommend trying it. It's not as common as you would see. It would definitely be a daily, I'm going to say a rare treat actually, just because you don't see it a lot. But when you do get it, it's really good because it's such a different vibe. Like, you don't have the water. You know, when you have pho, you got your spoon, you got your noodles, or your chopsticks, you're going at it. This is just, it's dry, and it's seriously really good. So if you do see that, grab it. So this last one, this is mostly dedicated to like Hanoi. So you see it here, it's a fish, it's grilled fish, but what they do, you see the color, because it looked like fried chicken, right? They use that, what is that stuff called? Turmeric? The Terminator? The turmeric, the Indian sauce. But they typically put the turmeric in there and then they fry it up. You'll get like rice noodles, they'll put peanuts in there, a bunch of like vegetables and stuff like this. Again, Hanoi's food is very it's very herby, right? So this fits in so perfect. And can we see it? Yeah, you see there's mushrooms back here, there's a lot of vegetables. You got chilies in there. All kinds of stuff. This is seriously really freaking good. If you're, I was gonna say vegan, if you're on a protein diet, this is like one of your go-tos. It is a Hanoi only thing, again. So if you do see this, grab it. It's good as hell. It tastes like you would think. It's fishy. It's fishy. I don't know what it is about Hanoi, but man, Hanoi's food, as much as Hanoi angers me with the pollution and the chaos and the disrespect, the food is so good. Like it balances itself out, which is crazy. So let's get to something weird. This is weird. So this is boar, like wild boar. I've only seen this in Sapa. I see a lot of spots in like South Vietnam that will do this to pork. They'll do this to beef. It is really good. It's like, they call it saute something. It'll be like saute ba. This one looks like it has some kind of like sesame seasoning and stuff on there. Again, the north is very herb based. And the Hmong people are no different. They use a lot of herbs in what they use, but it's called lo. I put the names up here because I can't say anything right. But if you do see this, you gotta grab it. Like, it's actually good. And if you're in the South, again, look for anything just called sauteed, like saute beef, saute chicken. Like for me, like beef was awesome. I know you could probably do pork. You can do duck, actually. I never thought about that. But duck would be a nice one as well. Now, this is something you see in light show, but this is primarily a central minority group. I don't know. I think it's called Tay or Tu. Tay or Tu, or am I thinking of the lake in Hanoi? I don't know. It's one of those, but it's near the Lao border. There's a couple minority groups over there. This is one of them. Actually, I was going, if you see one of my old videos, we were going from Lao to Vietnam. All they had was like Vietnamese food and Lao food. So I ended up getting this, and it was confusing because the guy was like, it's really good, and he brought it over. He's like, don't eat the bamboo, just eat the rice. And I was like, I don't want just rice. Like, it sounds horrible. But the thing about Lao is they love sticky rice. And it's like, it literally balls up. And you'll be on a bus. You'll be in the city. You'll be in a store or something like that. And they'll sit there and be picking at the rice and eating it and passing it around. It's a very weird dynamic, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't mean it in like a disrespectful way. It was very weird to me. But with this rice, they do the same idea. They pass it around. And that's what this was, but they steam it differently. And it was so good. Like, it had a really sweet taste to it. And the texture wasn't rice-like. It was more of like, I guess if you're eating a hot dog that was a little thicker, you know what I mean? It has like that texture to it. And it was super good. If you can find it, I would say it's a rare treat because it's not that special. Like, it doesn't taste like ultra crazy special, but it's definitely something you have to try if you can find it. You could probably find that somewhere else. I mean, it wasn't special like on how they made it. Like, the guy had like a barbecue with like a fish grate on the top, and he was just like wrapping the rice and throwing it on there, wait 5 minutes, selling it to you. So this is called a Com Tam, I think, Gola. And this is Com Tam. This is a minority group in central Vietnam. I didn't have any photos of it, so I had to get a stock. I'm sorry, guys. I think you can actually, yeah, you can see that. You can see where I took it. Yo, I give credit where credit is due. But this is a really cool thing. So it's typically some type of meat. You got like some crunchy noodle action in here. And you got your herbs, and then you get your types of meats. There isn't any regulation on what you eat with it, like how you eat it. When we got there, they pretty much give you this like big tray, right? And then you get like 4 or 5 different plates, and you pretty much just like a buffet. You just start putting like different vegetables and like sticky rice or crunchy noodles onto it. And then you point at the meat that you want, and they cook it for you right there, and they throw it on the plate, you're done. And it almost serves up like bun chow looks in a restaurant. You just throw it all together, man. And I threw everything into this sauce, and I was just like eating it out. Come on, David. I was eating through it, and it was super good. It like, there's no complaints, man. Yeah, it's just got like chia seeds here, crunchy noodle look like thing. It looks like pork flab and some kind of shrimp. And then the actual soup itself. Super good food. What do I feel about that? I'd say it's for the experience though. Like, there's nothing too amazing about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's literally just like stuff you can make at home if you're in America right now. So I wouldn't say it's like crazy special, but it's definitely something worth trying for the experience. So the next one, I did a video some time ago about favorite cities, and Da Nang is something that came up. Da Nang is by far one of the best cities in Vietnam, like hands down. What they have is this thing. Now this is, it's like a wet soup with no water, if that makes sense. And what it is, a type of noodle, kind of like pho. the soup is actually the noodle itself, right? But it's a type of noodle, and then you get a meat in there, and then it's got fermented fish sauce, and then just a bunch of vegetables. It's got a weird mix of texture and shape. And then, like, I remember having this, like, we had peanut sauce in there, I had a bunch of chili and stuff like that. And this is, they say it's a specialized minority, like, Da Nang only food, but it really has that Western, like, it seems like this came from the West, like, not particularly from the West directly, but there was like an influence, there was some kind of a fusion, like this is like an Asian French fusion food or something like that, because it definitely has a good vibe to it. So if you can find this, I think it's a rare treat, but if you're ever in Da Nang, that's definitely something that you'll find there. It's quite common, actually. You find it in a lot of the tourist areas. Coffee, I'm going to put this in for the experience. Let me find the bigger image for you guys. This is an egg coffee. You hear about this a lot in Saigon. Like, a lot of shops like glamorify this a lot. And what it is, it's just a coffee where they have like normal Vietnamese coffee, and then they put a what do you call it? Like, you whisk it. They whip the egg up and they throw it into the coffee. So it's like an egg coffee, an egg milk coffee. It's like an eggnog kind of a thing from like the European days or something like that. It's not bad. I drink coffee I got a coffee right here. Like, I drink coffee way too much. I would not drink this more than once, maybe every like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, it's good, but it's way too sweet for me, for one, and two, it's not appealing. Like, I think it's more of a fun thing to drink with your friends. But if you're trying to stay awake and work, I am dead tired, guys. It is like 3 in the morning right now. I'm recording this video, and I'm drinking coffee so I can stay up with you guys. This coffee does the job. That coffee is more of, I think it's just a fun thing to drink. Like, it's like drinking milk tea. It's cute. So the next one, I remember the first time I had this. I got this in Hanoi. It's a fluffy bread. But what they do, it kind of looks like a biscuit. Like, if you guys grew up in the West, like America, for example, you remember white gravy and biscuits. It's like that same biscuit taste and flavor and texture. But they have like beef inside. You get beef, chicken, or pork. Like, I think it's a rare treat because it is really good. The texture's good. Everything about it is actually really good. I don't think I would eat it every day. It's on the sweeter side. It's definitely good. Then the next one, what is this? So these are more just like desserts. So this one here is like this is like a custard food. It's not bad. I think the Vietnam touch to it is the ice on it. Vietnam, they put a lot of ice on stuff, like on fruit, on vegetables, as they serve it to you. This one isn't bad. I had it once. I think it's something you just take a picture of. I wasn't impressed. I'm not a custard fan at all, and I don't think it was that great. So I would personally just kind of skip it. Like, there's nothing really special about it. But past that, yeah, I just take a picture of it and I would move on. Oh, okay, and then this one is Bánh Bò Hue. I don't have a big picture of it. So Bánh Bò Hue it's noodles. Like, sometimes you'll find like instant noodles put into this. Like, it's nothing too special with the noodles, but it's noodles, and then you'll get beef in there. And then they'll have like an actual bone from the cow that'll be in there. This is typically what Vietnamese people eat over pho. You can get a bowl of it for like half the cost. It really tastes the same to me. Vendors sell this all the time. Cheaper little, like, people that turn their houses into restaurants typically sell this over pho because it's cheaper to make. The masses of people in Vietnam will eat this over pho because, again, the pricing. It's super cheap. So I would say this would be like a daily, even for Western people. I like it better, honestly. Like, if I had to pick pho or this, like, at a restaurant, they had both options, I'd probably this. Like, and I don't want to say it's because of the money. I just, like, I don't see the difference. So why not use that extra money and get another coffee, right? This last one, this is a French thing. It's called Bánh. Where'd it go? It's these cakes. So it's just bread with like some kind of cream in it, and they wrap it up, and then sometimes they'll put it in the oven for a few minutes to kind of like toast it up. This is why you see two, because it's kind of a joke. This is a French food. You can buy this in Vietnam too. It's just a candy. I'm gonna just say, take a photo, man. Like, there's nothing special about it. Like, it's literally like puffy bread, very sweet puffy bread with cream in the center. Like, go to Dunkin' Donuts. The kids love it. Typically, you'll see this at street vendors selling them outside of like high schools and secondary schools. The kids eat this shit up, and that's why most of their teeth are missing, because this is a big ball of sugar. And I think that does it. Like, yo, if you guys are here for your daily meals, there you go. Like, now, again, this is a mix of minority foods, mostly French influenced foods. And then what you eat day to day. This is not all the food in Vietnam. I know a bunch of you are going to be in the comments like, what about Lao Dai? What about hot pot? What about this? What about... There's a lot of stuff out here, guys. You're going to get to a bunch of other types of foods. You know, you're going to get like khom ga, khom ba, which is like rice and beef, rice and chicken. Those are going to be your daily foods as well. There's a lot of food to eat in Vietnam. Most of the food in Vietnam is just rice and noodles. And they just like put that in a bowl or a plate and then throw some shit on top of it. Boom, there's your meal, right? And then they give it a special name. My personal favorite in Vietnam, if I would break it down, has to be northern pho and Lao Thai, which is like a hot pot, a spicy hot pot. I'm gonna finish this coffee, guys. I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching. I will see you again.